You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio, Phil Williams, live here in the Rightside studios. Man, it is Monday, and we're going to cover down on the local, the state, the national. We got all the issues, solid, conservative, and like the dude just said, yes, we are just plain right. And hey, Boomer's running the board on a Monday. Hey, bud, how you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, good weekend?
Good weekend.
You had a birthday party to attend.
I did have a birthday party to attend. My little 5-year-old, and it was fun. I was a little sore. He went to like one of those trampoline parks.
Yeah, so that's, you know what? Those things are made for kids, but adults love them. So I mean, and then you had laser tag and all that added in too, right?
Oh yeah, and I think the parents had more fun doing the laser tag than the kids.
Yeah. I mean, just blam blam. You got more motor skills, right? You're out there just wearing out the 5-year-olds.
I took him out.
All right. Hey, listen, we got a great show for you. So it is. It's going to be interesting to go through some of this material because I'm running the gamut today, y'all. Get the triple dipper sound effect there ready, bud. But I'll tell y'all first, Congressman Mo Brooks is going to call in at 3. Yesterday, the Democrats ran through on a purely partisan split vote, tiebreaker vote cast by the Vice President of the United States, a $739 billion billion dollar spending bill. And it's just packed full of liberal agendas, not the least of which is they are growing the IRS at a rate bigger than the Pentagon. That being said, Congressman Mo Brooks is going to be seeing it soon in the House. Well, he's got a degree in economics from Duke. We're going to talk to him not only about being in Congress, but what he thinks is going to do to the economy. So 3 o'clock, Congressman Mo Brooks, you're going to want to hear that. 3:30, one of my favorite segments every single week. 3:30 today, Boomer and the Birdman. We'll be breaking things down. We got some questions, and they might even get a chance to just ask me questions and see if I can hang. But anyway, Boomer and the Birdman, 3:30 today. And there's still a triple dipper, so Boomer, hit it.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you have got to know. Number 1, I do it periodically, almost once a week now, Adventures in Woke World. Oh, yeah. Some of this stuff will make you mad. Some will inform you of what to watch out for, and others will just make you laugh at how inane and ridiculous it is. Adventures in Woke World. I have a buffet of stories to go through with you. Number 2, Spendorama. All right, so they had the Votorama yesterday, and it came out into a spendorama, I'm calling it. So, the $739 billion, we'll talk about that, not only with Congressman Brooks, but I got material to go over with you. So, yeah, number 2 on the Triple Dipper, spendorama. And then number 3, fit to fight. Is our force fit to fight? It's a fair question. I've got some commentary by General Jack Keane, who says that, the recruiting pool is getting smaller. And also just looking at what liberals are doing to the military. And, oh, by the way, what's the vaccine mandate? All said and done, are we fit to fight? We'll talk about it and what it's doing to recruiting numbers. This will be a little bit of a rehash or a refresh on something we did a few weeks ago. Well, it's worth doing again because it's getting more dire by the day. Fit to fight, number 3 on the Triple Dipper. But so listen, as I get into my comments for today, let me just say this. I'm going to be talking today about politics and policy and personality. All right, it's an election season. And I hear it all the time. People say things like, I vote straight ticket, or I vote for the person, not the party. Or on the other side of that 3-sided coin, I vote for the one that has the best policies. Okay, I'm going to suggest there's got to be some of all of the above, all right? So let me lead off by saying that I saw an article about the Cheney family, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, the Cheney family and their complete disdain for President Trump, to the extent that former Vice President Dick Cheney did a campaign ad last week for his daughter, Liz Cheney, in which he declared that Trump was a traitor. Now, if you want to support your daughter, I get it. I mean, any father should. But coming out and using that as an opportunity as the former vice president to claim that the current, the most recent past president is a traitor, I mean, that's some stiff words from a man who should know the value and import of such words. The story went on to question the Cheney family's all-out assault against Trump. Are they Republicans? Arguably, yes. Liz Cheney and certainly Dick Cheney would fall into what is often referred to as the establishment or the legacy wing of the GOP. I mean, don't they care about conservative policies? You would think so. I mean, are they really of the mind that we're better off under Joe Biden? I've not heard them say it that way, but it certainly seems that policy has lost out with the Cheneys to the ultimate bugaboo of Trump's personality. Personality. That's what they're voting on? Well, let's break it down a bit. Let's talk first about party politics. Now, I'm a longtime Republican myself. Many years as a party member, a county party chairman, a member of the state executive committee. I was an elected Republican. For those that vote straight ticket, there's sometimes the complaints that they're voting party over politics, that influence their vote. So what? Is that bad? It depends. When someone runs on a party ticket, you have a means technically of knowing that they've been, at least somewhat pre-cleared. They have acknowledged it's a party platform. They have not worked for the other party in recent history. They are allegedly aligned with certain values and with others in the same ticket. For instance, if someone says they're a Democrat, but they don't align with Joe Biden, then you have to ask, why are they a Democrat? I remember one former state representative who spent years as a Democrat tried to tell me once he didn't really align with the bulk of Democrats. He even caucused sometimes with the Republicans, which brought me to question him as to, quote, then why are you still riding for that brand? There's got to be those folks who occasionally may cross a line with party platforms for gay marriage but opposed to government spending sprees, for green energy agendas but also believe in a strong national defense, something like where they kind of mix their platform issues. But those kind of crossover voters are getting fewer by the day. In my opinion, party does mean something. Maybe not everything, but party does mean something. You have a team. I once spoke to a man whose daughter had unsuccessfully run for office as an independent. He told her afterwards, as she was lamenting a heavy loss at the polls, that she should look at the numbers and realize that there was no straight ticket vote on her side, that every single person who voted for her literally voted for her. Well, that's true. I'm sure that's a way to assuage any such loss, but the fact remains she ran without a team. You see, when you join a team, you reap the benefits of being on the team. Likewise, you are to some degree accountable to the team. So voting straight ticket, really, I have no issue unless I can clearly see that some member of that team's ticket is not who he or she said they are, like their policies don't align. You see, I do care deeply about policy. That's the other piece of this. I care deeply about policy. I can't imagine ever voting for a Democrat myself, but I care about who is claiming the mantle of being a member of either party. Like, okay, what are their policies? What will they do? See, the interesting thing is during the 2020 presidential election cycle, Biden and every member of the Democrat field told us what they would do. Sure, there were some whoppers about being a unifier and working across the aisle, but the truth is we had 40 years of history on Joe Biden's policies, and he pretty much ran on them. He presided over the Senate for Obamacare votes when he was the VP. His foreign policy has always been awful. He loathes strong military action. He literally gave us ISIS. He is known for being a gaffe master and embarrassing others in his circle by his inability to avoid saying stupid stuff or to announce policy changes when they really hadn't been announced. Policies. The policies of a candidate are of paramount importance. If the Cheneys, or anyone else for that matter, think for a minute that Trump's policies would have been, worse than Biden's, then I question whether they were really Republicans to begin with. It appears to me that the Cheneys and others of the Never Trump crowd, they got lost along the way. They incubated and festered such a hatred of Trump's personality that they were willing to sacrifice both the party and the policies because of, number 3, the personality. And that brings us to that. That brings us to those who say, I vote for the person. Okay, I understand that elections are in some way a popularity contest. They are, especially in the primary season. Half a dozen candidates stand in front of you, running commercials on your TV, mailing stuff to your house, and you find yourself, getting caught up in the whole idea of which one smiled better or seemed more genuine or came across too grumpy or posted something you didn't like on Facebook. Personality does play a part in every election, and that's not unreasonable, but it can become a trap if that's all that a voter looks at. Personality cannot be the best indicator of whether someone is most qualified to serve in a public office. Look at 2020 again. The presidential election came down largely on the question of Trump's personality. Set aside all of the questions about election integrity, all right, set those aside. I think if all so-called Republicans had actually voted Republican, it would have gone differently as well. The presidential election came down largely on the question of Trump's personality in many ways. Now, I have no issue with Democrats who vote for their candidate. They're Democrats. And I get that so-called independents sometimes have likes and dislikes, and they're not wed to a team, so they stay flexible, and they went to whatever candidate they last landed on. But what I do have serious issues with are the never-Trump Republicans. Those so-called team players who sacrificed everything because they believed that Trump himself was somehow bad for the party, bad for the nation. Well, how's that worked out? How many of you are listening right now that are better off than you were when Trump was in office? Is it that same short-sightedness? It's that same short-sightedness that got us the brief stint we had with Doug Jones being one of our 2 senators, which, by the way, explains to this day why we're still paying through the nose for Obamacare, because Doug Jones was there. It's as if the politics of the middle school cliques took over for some longtime players and pundits. They couldn't get past personality. It was like middle school. He's mean. Well, I will readily admit that Trump's personality is brash and at times bombastic. Occasionally, yes, I would cringe at his mean tweets too. So what? In the end, though, I would rather have a strong and sometimes rude personality running policies that I believe in than to endure what we're enduring right now. So politics, policy, and personality, those 3 things, those 3 Ps, I would rank them policy first, party next. And personality? Well, this ain't middle school, y'all. And that's a wrap for the Right Side Way. Yeah, I look at it and think, okay, never Trump Republicans, you own this. This is yours. You own this. You are to blame in many ways. It's the same reason why we got Doug Jones. Oh, I just can't do it. I just can't. I just bother. I can't vote for that person. All right. How much did that work out for us? Listen, party, politics, personality. You got to weigh them out. You got to find that fine balance. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, live here in the studio, the Rightside studio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. We got a caller. Yeah, we got a caller on line one, Boomer. Brian from Huntsville. Hey, Brian, how you doing today, man?
Doing well, except for that vote passing. So beyond that, doing well.
Good enough, man. What's on your mind?
Well, based on your monologue, party politics and personality, I believe it was.
Yeah.
I would, based on Winston Churchill and never surrender, never surrender, never surrender. I want to put another P on there, a fourth one, perseverance.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
We don't give up.
No, we don't get enough perseverance right now, and you're right. I mean, right now Biden is willing to cave on virtually everything. It seems like.
You get knocked down, get up off the mat, go back again.
Yeah, good word, Brian. Appreciate you, man. Have a great day. All right, hey, listen, we got plenty on the show today, so we're going to get into Adventures in Woke World here in a minute. But let me just remind you guys, we have plenty of stuff for you. All right, plenty of stuff for you. If you go to our website, rightsideradio.org, I mean, like right now, the show is live streaming. You can catch it right there. Go to rightsideradio.org, click on the tab. It's called Live and Podcast, I believe. And the streaming is going on right now, so you can see inside the Right Side studio. You can also, by the way, catch the podcast. Where are we at, Boomer? The podcast over the weekend. We have to be like pushing 68,000 or 675, somewhere in there, I'm guessing. But yeah, that's where a lot of what you got, bud.
Yep, about almost 68,000.
Woohoo!
Yep.
All right. But yeah, the podcast is on there. If you're a podcaster, or for that matter, if you just missed part of the show and you want to catch it again, or you want to send a link to a friend about that interview we did with somebody like Ted Nugent last week, or the one we had with Jared Hudson, who's running for sheriff as a former Navy SEAL running for sheriff in Jefferson County. We've had some great interviews lately. All those are on our podcast. Boomer breaks them down every single day. Birdman then uploads them into segmented pieces, and the podcast is just kicking. By the way, hello to California. I can't explain it, but our second largest podcast audience is California to this day. It's been going that way now for almost like 6 or 8 months. So hello, California. We love you out there on the left coast, and just hang in there. We're going to keep working our way towards you. A lot of things happening, too. You've also got the things like the Right Side store on there. You check that out because that's where you can get coffee mugs, T-shirts, Right Side stickers, and stuff, including Right Side socks, because everybody needs Right Side socks. I was talking to somebody the other day that works in the legal field around here, and they use their kind of like political terminology, or legal terminology. They said, I can neither confirm nor deny that my wife may have gotten me some Right Side socks. But anyway, it's all on the website right now. Well, I can see a caller coming in, so I'll give it 1 second before I jump topic. And see if I can grab that call real quick. But yeah, the Adventures in Woke World piece, I'm going to lead off with a story right here in Alabama. You'll be happy to know that Title IX, it's coming to Alabama. Yay. The Biden LGBTQ2IA plus whatever, acronym is today. It's all there. What do we got on line one there, bud? Is that Alan? Yeah, Alan from Hartsville. Phil Williams here on Right Side, bud. How you doing?
I'm upright and breathing, looking down at the ground instead of looking up.
There you go. I like it. What's on your mind, man?
You keep saying that it's, get what you pay for.
Okay.
Well, the libs and Mr. Biden is getting exactly. Now, I've got a prediction.
All right.
And I'm just, my prediction is that this thing about Hunter will come out just before the 2024 election. And they'll charge him, and he'll be all charges will be dropped by his father. Now, that's the way it's been working. And I just don't like that idea at all.
No.
Common people that get charged with crimes, they go to jail. And it's already been, there's too much evidence about Hunter Biden for him not to be in jail.
No, it's pretty amazing.
That makes sense.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, you got Americans right now going to jail for allegedly lying to Congress or for assembling on January 6th, and some of them didn't even, by the way, commit any crimes within the walls of Congress, and they're in jail. And you got Hunter Biden has got a complete pass right now. But hey, Alan, thanks for your time, man. We're up against the break here shortly, so appreciate you, and stay in the audience. We like having you around. All right, listen, we are going to go to a break here in one moment. We'll come back from that, though. We're going to kick it off with Adventures in Woke World, and then top of the hour, you're going to want to hang around because Congressman Mo Brooks will be calling in to talk about the spending bill out of D.C., the Spendorama, I am calling it. And, yeah, what's another $739 billion between friends, right? Well, especially when it's on green energy deals. And, oh, by the way, 80-some-odd thousand new IRS agents. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yeah, we got that and we got more. And we have to lead it off there, Boomer, with our Adventures in Woke World sound effect here in a few minutes.
We don't get to use that very often.
I know.
I'm excited to get that on.
We got to make sure that one gets used.
Yes.
All right, folks, listen, full show for you. You got to stay tuned. We're going to be in the Triple Dipper. Why do we call it 3 stories you got to know? Because it's 3 stories you got to know. What happened in D.C. is going to be impactful for decades to come, if not more. And it's basically on policies that, I just saw it a minute ago. Congressman Barry Moore just sent out a text, said he doesn't know of anybody in the state of Alabama who asked for more government, more taxation, and more IRS agents. But here we are. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. woke. How else do you describe it? You look at it and go, I'm not sure what's happening, but I recognize that it's happening, and it all begins to kind of get lumped back in to woke. So, yeah, here's the deal. First story I got to tell you, AL.com. AL.com is running a story, top of the headlines right now on AL.com. Alabama school is the first known in the U.S. to face Title IX investigation for sexual orientation. Here we go. Let the games begin. So here's the story. You may recall that most recently, the Biden administration has said that they will give out what they call an expanded understanding of Title IX regulations. Title IX is the federal law that prohibits discrimination based upon gender in education. It can be even things like, women's sports. Like if you got baseball facilities, you have to have adequate girls' softball facilities, things like that. Well, Title IX is being completely undermined by the Biden administration and by leftist policies that are determined right now to make it as if we, have men that can now compete in women's sports. I got news. It doesn't work that way. Well, one of the things they've also done, though, is they've expanded discrimination policies, even though Congress has not done this. Congress has not revised Title IX. Just simply the Biden administration has. So, story on AL.com right now, here in Alabama, the Federal Office for Civil Rights is investigating a parent's complaint that her daughter, a Shelby County student, was discriminated against because of her sexual orientation during the 2020-2021 school year. A federal investigator called the case a high-profile one in that when it was opened in August of 2020, it was the first time that OCR, the Office of Civil Rights, was going to be investigating a case of discrimination solely based on a student's sexual orientation. So, you look at it and go, wow, here we are. The case marks the first time that officials have used an expanded understanding of Title IX regulations that specifically protect students who are LGBTQ. Expanded understanding. Now, let me just point out something. In case it's not blatantly obvious, an expanded understanding does not, in fact, make it a law. So my hope is that the Shelby County school system is not going to sit idly by and go, "Oh no, we're being investigated." I hope what's going to wind up happening is they're going to lawyer up, and I hope that the Attorney General and groups like the Alabama Center for Law and Liberty are going to get involved here and deal with this head on, because an expanded understanding of the law under a liberal pretense does not, in fact, make it law. Well, the story goes on to say, in June of 2020, a mother alleged that a teacher at the school denied her student, placement in a school program. It doesn't say what. In the 2020 and 2021 school year due to, quote, homophobic bigotry, because the student didn't date guys and, quote, likes girls. Okay, that's about as vague as it gets. True? Who knows? It does go on to point out, though, this could be a case of first impression. In the legal world, speaking as Lawyer Williams here, a case of first impression basically means it's a case that has never been determined on these kind of merits before. It has the potential to set a new precedent for how such future cases will be handled. Well, it's coming in under the federal courts. I would assume it will have to go through the federal court system in Alabama. I would assume, though, that somewhere along the way, someone's going to have to look at it and go, in the event that it goes past investigation, which right now it's where it is, it's not litigation, it's investigation. Although, just wait. I would assume, though, that someone's going to be able to say, Your Honor, we need to move to dismiss on the basis that there is no congressional action that has ever resulted in a law that reads the way they want it to read. They're simply interpreting it under what they call an expanded understanding. Well, they go on to point out that a formal investigation is an important step. It's an opportunity for the Department of Education to hold the school responsible and to demonstrate to schools all over the country there's an obligation to address discrimination when it happens under an expanded Adventures in Woke World. Boomer, y'all good on tech over there, bud? Everything good? I wish y'all could have seen, by the way. I'm taking a brief aside here. My brother Boomer over here just started grabbing wires and pulling jacks and hitting switches and checking things. You can explain it to me later, man. All I know is if I push a little button, I'm talking to somebody, right?
That's right. That's right. You're talking.
I'm talking, and hopefully they're listening. So that's all good. Hey, I tell you what, since I couldn't hear it a minute ago because y'all, we had some tech stuff going on, I was like talking in the blind. But you got that sound effect for Adventures in Woke World again? I want to hear it. I have not. I didn't get a chance to hear it.
Adventures
Yes.
in Woke World.
Thank you. Now I feel complete. All right, next story I've got. Adventures in Woke World, yes. How about this one? Multiple people arrested after New York City pro-abortion protesters shout down Catholic parishioners outside of church. It's where we are, folks, because even church is not sacred. Several arrests made as pro-abortion protesters clashed with anti-abortion activists at a New York City Catholic church on Saturday. Let me remind you, the anti-abortion activists were not there to be actively engaged with the pro-abortion activists. They were going to church. So the New York Young Republican Club Catholic Caucus had a rosary called a rosary rally at the church where they met for prayer about the issue of abortion. Well, they were met by a group of anti-abortion protesters who showed up at the cathedral on the first Saturday and literally began shouting down the Catholic parishioners, the New York Young Republican Club Catholic Caucus, calling them Nazis, and 5 of them got arrested. Well, they put out a statement, the New York Young Republican Catholic Caucus. The NYYRC Catholic Caucus denounces the violence once again directed at parishioners of Old St. Patrick's this morning, another effort to terrorize Catholics, they said, and we applaud any members of our group who attended the Rosary Rally. Open witness to Christ in New York City is a dangerous act. History will look fondly on those who stood nonetheless. And I agree. They ended by saying, growing forces in the city want to stop anyone from standing for Christ. If so, we will kneel for him. Wow. Wish you had more young Americans saying things like that, don't you? What else have I got in my stack? I got stuff. Some that'll make you mad, some that makes you go, what? How about this one? Yeah, this will curl your hair. You ready? Stand by. Brace yourselves. Story on FoxNews.com dated 2 days ago. University of Kansas offers an angry white males study class. Let me read the headline again. Just absorb it. Just waller in it for a minute. You ready? University of Kansas offers an angry white male studies class. University of Congress, says Fox News, is offering a course in the fall called Angry White Male Studies that will examine the rise of the angry white male in the United States. Do they need any case studies? I'll go up and stand there and talk to them for a bit. What do you think? The course will be offered during the fall 2022 term with the goal of teaching about the, quote, prominent figure that is the, quote, angry white male, Campus Reform reported. Okay, here's 2 quotes. See if you can track this with me, Boomer. You ready? Here we go. Quote number 1. Quote, this course charts the rise of the angry white male in America and Britain since the 1950s, exploring the deeper sources of this emotional state while evaluating recent manifestations of male anger. Part 2. Brace yourself. You ready? The course description explains that students will be, quote, employing interdisciplinary perspectives to examine how both dominant and subordinate masculinities are represented and experienced in cultures undergoing periods of rapid change connected to modernity as well as rights-based movements of women, people of color, homosexuals, and trans individuals. Shall I read it again slower? I don't know what it said.
I'm not sure if slower would help me.
Listen, man, I read this 3 times and highlighted it. Look, there it is, highlighted. And I'm still reading it going, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Questions that will be answered about angry white males. Angry white males. But you know what? What's crazy, though, is I can hear this kind of story, and I get angry because of the story. But I don't recall living as an angry white male. But when I hear the story, I'm a white male who got angry. So if I went to the class and I stood up and I said, "Excuse me, I take offense at this," I would be deemed an angry white male by virtue of taking offense. It's like a catch-22 you can never get out of with liberals. They do all they can to box you in. You're an angry white male. No, I'm not. Don't get angry with me. What? That's how it goes. All right. The questions that will be answered in this class that I am certain is going to send people out into the world prepared to make a better living and to contribute to society are questions, things like, where does he come from? What's he angry about? Is his anger misplaced? Is he blaming the right people? How long has this been going on? Is he a global phenomenon? How do we move forward? How about this? Quit running stupid classes that make white males angry. There's a good idea. I like that one. Okay, next. What do we got? We're in Adventures in Woke World. Can you play it for me one more time? Do it, man.
Adventures in Woke World.
Okay. AL.com right here in Alabama reporting. You ready for this? Boomer, you like Cracker Barrel, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like an ad or anything, but let's do this. That restaurant known as Cracker Barrel serves the kind of food that we like. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. When you go to Cracker Barrel and you get the menu, like what kind of food are you thinking when you arrive?
I'm thinking like good old hearty farm breakfast, nice big pork and sausage and biscuits and gravy and
Are you looking
eggs.
for fake meat made out of vegetables?
No, not at all.
AL.com reporting Cracker Barrel's new plant-based offerings ignites a fiery Facebook debate. So, an innocuous post by a country cooking chain turned into a Facebook food fight this week, as that's the way the headline reads off. I got it right here. On Monday, Cracker Barrel posted a photo of one of the restaurant's build-your-own breakfast plates. I like those. In addition to eggs and hash browns, the photo depicted the Impossible brand meatless sausage patties with the caption, quote, "Discover new meat frontiers. Experience the out-of-this-world flavor of it." If you're a vegan, but you want meat, are you really a vegan?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
I mean,
just like
if we got to make fake meat for you, what the heck?
that means aren't you just craving meat?
You're craving meat.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason for that. God wanted us to eat meat. Okay. Over 7,000 comments have brewed so far on the Facebook post. Accusations that Cracker Barrel has gone woke and slinging terms like snowflake are all. I'm telling you, when Cracker Barrel starts messing around like that, you know why? They started serving alcohol. Next thing you know, they're getting vegan meat.
That's what it is.
Take me to a break before I lose my mind. All right, folks, we're going to come back and wrap up Adventures in Woke World. I got a couple more, and then top of the hour, we're going to switch gears, talk about fiscal policy. We'll be on the phone with Congressman Mo Brooks, get an idea how Spendorama is going to go when it comes to the House and what he thinks is going to happen with the economy. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, so we are right now still in Adventures in what you want to do it again, Boomer? What do you think? Go ahead, hit it.
Adventures in Woke World.
Oh my gosh! You know what? So some of these are funny, some are goofy, like the Cracker Barrel thing. Some of them are ridiculous. Some are maddening. But it's all woke policies being put into place where you look at it, and the bottom line is, what it basically looks like is that right is now wrong, wrong is now right, up is now down. It's like something like Alice in Wonderland, where you're headed to the Mad Hatter's tea party, and the Mad Hatter says something like, "Why, I've actually believed as many as 6 untrue things before breakfast once in a while." I mean, that's where it is. And by the way, Charlene the lovely Charlene just sent me a text. She goes, "Speaking of woke," and she has this article. It's a brand new article. It's up right now as of, it's only 20 minutes old on Fox. Title of it, you ready for this? 80-year-old Washington State woman banned from the YMCA after demanding that a trans employee leave the locker. Really? So what you got?
Wow. I mean, I can't believe that.
She's 80 years old.
And they just banned her.
They banned her.
From YMCA.
You know why? Because the article goes on to say that an 80-year-old Washington State woman was permanently banned from her local YMCA pool after demanding that a transgender employee leave the women's locker room. She said, "I saw a man in a woman's bathing suit watching 4 or 5 little girls pulling down their suits to use the restroom, and I asked him about she went over and asked him about his anatomy. I won't go into details, and he said it was none of my business. I told him to get out right now. He refused. So she went and told staff. Staff then told her. She said she alerted a pool staffer and was stunned when the staff member told her that she was being discriminatory and that she was now banned from the pool forever. They also allegedly said the police would be called, according to her radio interview. Said she didn't ask me what the problem was, didn't ask if I was okay, nothing about me. It's like she was waiting to pounce. And 80 years old. 80 years old. Kicked out of the YMCA forever because she demanded that a man not hang out in the women's locker room. Wow. Other story right here, and this is one of those woke things, but you look at it and go, good for you. Story on Breitbart, dated August 5th, which would be what, Friday? Exclusive footage, and it just says there was footage. But anyway, a migrant bus of mostly single adult men sent by Texas Governor Abbott arrives in New York City. You may recall, by the way, that New York City and Washington, D.C. have both declared themselves to be sanctuary cities. They've been very proud of it, too. We're a sanctuary. We stand up for the rights of everybody. Well, good. We're going to send them to you. So Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has been loading up buses full of illegals that come across the border. He's not allowed to deport them, so he'll just go ahead and transplant them to places where they say they want more of them. I mean, it's epic.
I love it.
I know.
I love it.
It's perfect, man. So, yeah. A bus filled with mostly single adult male migrants arrived at the Port Authority in New York City from Texas Friday morning, greeted by volunteers that were handing out burritos. Something about that just feels like a slight. I don't know why it feels racist, but anyway, they were greeted by volunteers handing out burritos as Governor Greg Abbott continues dispersing record-breaking numbers of border crossers and illegal aliens arriving in his state to Democrat-run sanctuary cities. And he says, the Governor Abbott's statement, because of President Biden's continued refusal to acknowledge the crisis caused by his own open border policies, the state of Texas has had to take unprecedented action to keep our communities safe. I love this. I think this is righteous. I mean, I look at it and go, hello, Mayor Bowser. Hello, Mayor Adams of New York City. You bunch of schmucks. There you are, literally out there saying, well, we would be a sanctuary city, and we will welcome anybody. Texas is down there complaining. Well, Texas is also invited Mayor Adams to please come down and visit. Come down and see what it's like on the border with these open border policies as you insist upon being a sanctuary city. And oh, by the way, good luck taking care of the people you said you wanted more of. By the way, you can imagine the first thing that happened was that New York City and Washington, D.C. both called for federal assistance. Mayor Bowser even asked for National Guard. And it was denied, by the way. All right, I got more stuff than we had time for. Like, lightning strikes are a climate change issue now. Or that stats show that 1 in 5 gay men who got monkeypox had sex with 10 or more people before getting infected. Oh, Lord. Or how about this? Trans activists plan on trafficking hormone therapy drugs across state lines. That might be a crime. Anyway, lots of stuff. It's a woke world. Keep your head on a swivel. Keep your powder dry. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, Congressman Mo Brooks. We'll be right back.
statewide. Jobs are currently available and posted at zlausa.com. ZLA Solutions. We don't make it, we make it better. ZLA Solutions. For all of your business and staffing needs. Learn more at zlausa.com.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. We're talking local, state, national. We got all the stuff, man, all of it. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Saving the world one soundbite at a time. Well, listen, you may be tracking that yesterday afternoon after what they call Vote-O-Rama, with a series of amendments being attempted by both Republicans and Democrats, the majority of which were all shot down. The Democrats successfully passed a $739 billion spending plan. Now, they call it the Inflation Reduction Act. Go figure. Totally partisan voting. In fact, it was 50-50 with Kamala Harris being able to then cast the tie-breaking vote to get the bill passing through the Senate. It now goes to the House. Well, if there's anybody who knows about fiscal policy in the House, it's Congressman Mo Brooks, who's been representing Alabama's 5th Congressional District now since 2011. He not only, by the way, is a fiscal hawk, a fiscal conservative in the House, but he is also has a degree with honors from Duke University in economics. So let's bring him on right now. Congressman Mo Brooks, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Just enjoying my root beer float, being a lame duck congressman.
well, there you go. Well, you can call it lame duck if you want to, but you still got some work to do, sir. And the first thing that's going to happen, I guess, in this coming week is Pelosi says she's bringing that freaking Inflation Reduction Act bill to you. What do you think?
Well, I'll be voting no. The vote is expected to be on Friday. In my judgment, it undermines liberty and freedom, increases the expansion of the federal government, which means that the federal government is dictating more and more what we can and cannot do in our daily lives. Some of this has to do with health care. Some of this bill has to do with energy consumption and what forms of energy-related devices we can use or not use. And it dips into almost all of our pockets in the form of higher taxes. Yeah. The Congress has a committee called the Joint Committee on Taxation. It is a bipartisan committee. It has examined this legislation and determined that net tax burdens will go up on average for everybody who has an income of $30,000 a year or more.
Wow. And
surprisingly, they also concluded that this bill increases the tax burdens for people who earn $0 to $10,000. So the only people who are not suffering from higher taxes, and for them it is primarily unchanged, are people who earn between $10,000 and $30,000 per year, which is not much of the American population.
Well, I look at this and, there's so many nuances to this bill that I want to get into with you, and I hope we can cover some ground on it. But the first thing that I would say is there anything about your studies in economics when you were at Duke that tells you that tax increases during a recession are a good idea and will actually, basically reduce inflation?
No, none whatsoever. Generally speaking, taxation is an economic depressant, because you're taking money from consumers and producers and giving it to the government. And so that has a depressing effect on economic activity. The producers have less capital with which to produce things, and the consumers have less money with which to buy things.
Yeah.
So that's the exact opposite of what you should be doing if your goal is to stimulate economic activity. On the inflation front, this legislation is also bad because it taxes the cost of producing things. And when you increase the cost of producing things, that in turn means that they must be sold at higher prices. And those higher prices, well, that's the definition of inflation.
It absolutely is. I mean, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and I don't have your degree, but I think anybody with some semblance of fiscal understanding can recognize that what just happened was a travesty on the backs of the American people. But let me ask you about this part of it, though, Congressman. One of the things that to me is maybe perhaps the most deeply concerning is the amazing amount of growth they're going to put into the IRS, hiring 80-something thousand new IRS agents. I mean, to what extent is that going to wind up being a good idea, or are we going to watch the days of Lois Lerner look like, a kiddie show?
Well, the estimate right now is 87,000 IRS agents will be added to the payroll, and their job is to pry into your private affairs. That is their job. Now, the hoped for gain is that people will be forced to pay the taxes that they owe. So there is some positive associated with it. But when you start having 87,000 more IRS agents and the audits that go with it, well, each one of those audits is very expensive and time-consuming to Joe and Jane taxpayer, and in particular to businesses that now have yet another higher cost that they have to absorb, which in turn means they have to raise prices of their goods and services even more to offset the increased cost of these IRS audits and everything else these IRS agents are going to do to corporate and individual taxpayers. So it's another inflationary provision in the bill because it does drive up pricing. Somebody has to pay for those agents. That's the higher tax part of it.
Right.
And then somebody has to pay the cost to interact with those agents. That's another higher cost aspect to it. So that particular provision is a double whammy with its inflationary impact.
Not only that, Congressman, but I look at it when you compare, apples and oranges here, but even still there's a comparison worth noting, is that the military cannot meet its recruiting goals this year. The Army is just had to drop from 70,000 estimated milestone of recruitment down to 55,000. They're not sure they can make that, and yet they're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents. That to me is a galling, displaced set of priorities.
Well, what is happening in the military is an entirely different, albeit to some degree related, set of issues. People who are patriotic, who love their country and are willing to fight and even die for their country, they do so for reasons. And those reasons are not to be in a woke environment where you are forced to adopt certain belief systems that you have fundamental disagreements with.
Right.
And when you are denying people their liberty and freedom to think as they believe best, particularly on moral values, then you're going to find that more and more of the people who used to be willing to volunteer to participate in our national security, they refuse to do so because they value their individual liberty and freedom more, and they do not like the direction that the military is taking us in their social experimentation. So this is a natural cascading adverse effect of what the Democrats are doing in Washington, D.C.
Well, it is, and like I said, it's completely misplaced priorities. Now, let me go back to the thing about the IRS agents being one of the key components of the bill that has generated a lot of, PR, good and bad. I'm hearing that one of the tactics trying to peel off some Democrats in the House vote is to really hit home what it's going to be like to see 87,000 more IRS agents on the streets. What are you predicting? How do you see this going? Is there any hope we could see this thing falter in the House?
Well, you never know for sure, but in the 3 years and 7 months that Nancy Pelosi has been in charge of the House of Representatives, going back to January of 2019, she has not lost a single substantive vote. The Democrats and the Socialists have not lost a single substantive vote. So I do not anticipate that they will lose this one, but you never really know until it happens.
Yeah. I mean, do you see the IRS piece being the biggest arguable piece to go after, or do you see something else that has better leverage?
Well, the 87,000 IRS agents is something that's got to be most troublesome to Democrats who want to win their reelections in November. So you would hope that they would respond to public opinion, but they have proven themselves do not care about that. They have their own socialist, anti-moral values agenda that they prosecute, even if it means risking or losing their own Senate or House seat. So give credit to the Democrats in that they are committed to their belief system, even to the point of risking a loss. And you saw that in 2009 and 2010 with the passage of socialized medicine, commonly known as Obamacare.
Yeah.
They knew that they were going to lose a lot of their House and Senate members. Eventually, they'd probably lose the House and the Senate, and they lost the House immediately. The Senate took a little bit longer before they lost it. But nonetheless, they persisted in pushing their ideology on the American people, and they were successful. They made their gains. Unfortunately, we do not have Republicans in the House or the Senate, at least not enough of them, who are willing to commit themselves to the belief systems that they advocate when they campaign. There's a big gap between what these candidates say when they campaign and then what they do in office as they try to protect the status that they believe they hold as congressmen and senators.
Well, I completely agree, and well, I'm hopeful, and you can correct me on procedure. I mean, I know what it was in the state legislature. The bottom line is, if a bill goes from one body of the legislative process to the other and gets amended at all, it then has to go to conference and be resolved. So, do you see any amendments potentially getting tacked on in the House, and would that then slow the roll?
It is always a possibility, but my impression is that Nancy Pelosi has set aside one day for votes.
Yeah.
And that tells me she thinks, from her whip count, that she has the votes necessary to pass it as is.
Well, Congressman, listen, you got a week ahead of you, sir. Go ahead.
I said we'll see.
Yeah.
With the votes on Friday, I'll be driving to Washington on Thursday, and hopefully I'll be driving home on Saturday. But you never know. We weren't even supposed to be in session this week. So a lot of people's schedules are being scrambled. There are probably a lot of congressmen overseas that will be voting proxy. I don't know how that will play out. A lot of congressmen will never have read the bill. Their staffs will never have read the bill. And that may be a factor, too. So there are a lot of uncertainties when you've got a massive bill being thrown at you last second without any hearings in the House of Representatives.
Well, you by the way, before we go, you bring up a great point. So the House is still using proxy votes, which is a COVID holdover. In the Senate, they did away with their COVID protocols in order to get this vote through. But in the House, they're still allowed to be on vacation, sitting on the beach, sipping margaritas and vote from there, aren't they?
Yes.
Wow. All right, Congressman, we appreciate your time. Thank you for what you do. Thanks for being there. And listen, we'll keep our eyes on it and wish you the best.
Thank you, Phil. Just anytime you want my insight, happy to share it.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. That was Congressman Mo Brooks, one of the more conservative members of Congress, a member of the Tea Party, not Tea Party, but the Freedom Caucus. A degree in economics. I mean, he knows what he's seeing. He knows what's coming his way. He also knows he's completely outnumbered right now. And we're going to wait and see. But right now, Nancy Pelosi has scheduled this heinous spendorama bill for Friday. We'll talk about it a little bit more in detail when we come back from this break. Let's go ahead, Boomer, and do that. We'll take that break. We'll come right back. And then bottom of the hour, it's Boomer and the Birdman. And we're going to take a little bit of a different track. Part of it's going to be asking me questions. Oh, Lord, I have no idea what's coming. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. We are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I mean, we are spanning south of Birmingham to north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. All right, man. Yeah, look out the window. Where we are right now in the studio, the rain just bottomed out of nowhere. Like that's like those raindrops are the size of Volkswagens. I mean, wow. Anyway, all right. Listen, continuing on this topic. So we are in number 2 of the Triple Dipper, the Spindorama. You may recall that what happened over the weekend was what they call Votorama. Votorama is just like the sort of the slang, unofficial, official name given to the fact that when a major bill comes up and one party does not have the ability then to, this is in the Senate, does not have the ability then to block it by means of filibuster, then what they do is they start lining up, because in order to pass a reconciliation bill, there has to be an opportunity for amendments to be offered. And so they offer amendment after amendment after amendment, part of which is good, like it tries to take bad stuff out of the bill or add good stuff in. The other part is we're going to make you go on the record with stuff, all right? We're going to make you go on the record with stuff. Like they had one amendment being offered by Marco Rubio that would have required everybody who voted on it to basically agree that only women can get pregnant. It was political posturing. I get it. It didn't have anything to do with Spindorama. But nonetheless, that bill went down because Democrats wouldn't vote for it. Or that amendment, I'm sorry. Yeah, all said and done, the Votorama went as far as it could go, apparently. Got down to the very end. They called the vote on the bill, and I don't recall if it was or was not actually amended to any degree. I know that one of the interesting things was even Bernie Sanders couldn't get his amendments on, and he was mad. Like, he didn't like this bill. He wanted it to be far more socialist than it was. But here's the deal. This thing they just passed, $739 billion. $739 billion. $369 billion of that goes to climate change. Now, tell me why this is good for our economy. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. What an absolute joke. The very idea they would do this, the Inflation Reduction Act, that's what they call it. $369 billion of it goes to climate change initiatives. $64 billion of it goes to funding the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. In other words, they're propping up Obamacare with an additional $64 billion. It raises it sets the minimum corporate income tax at 15%. So in other words, it raises taxes. It also raises taxes for virtually everyone. You heard Congressman Brooks talking about that. If you make, where's the numbers here? It raises taxes except for those between $10,000 and $30,000 a year. If you make less than $10,000, technically increases your taxes. If you make over 30, it definitely increases your taxes. Even though Joe Biden said he wouldn't raise taxes on anybody, you remember this campaign season? He wouldn't raise taxes on anybody making less than $400,000 a year. That won't happen. I won't do that. Well, it goes on and on and on. But one of the most egregious things that concerns me about it is that this particular bill upfunds the IRS. Like, when have you ever seen this happen? Virtually doubling, if I'm not mistaken, the number of IRS agents. 87,000 new IRS agents. Now, biblically speaking, being the tax collector kind of made you the guy on the outs. But apparently they're going to hire 87,000 of them here. Well, Spindorama. It didn't go well. Economists are saying it's not going to go good for the economy. It's certainly not going to reduce inflation. It's going to make things harder on the average American. But they did it in one Saturday. There it is, coming out of the House vote this Friday. All right, folks, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, Boomer and the Birdman. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. That's right. Solid conservative. And, hey, by the way, just plain right, just so you know. All right, one of my favorite segments that we do every week, we get together with the folks who help make all this possible. So right now, we got a crew that has been making the tech work. Like even today, it was funny, not funny. It was funny, not funny, watching Boomer run around the studio trying to unplug things and plug them back in. You know, it was, man. Okay, it's funny now, right? It wasn't funny then. But I got great folks who make things happen. I mean, I have the joy of just knowing that if I push the little button, I'll wind up talking to people. That's what winds up being the extent of my tech knowledge. But I got great guys who do all the stuff. Well, they're great guys who know how to do the stuff. But they know they got opinions too. They got opinions about things that matter. And so I like to do the situation we call Boomer and the Birdman once a week. And is Birdman, is he synced with us, Boomer? Have we got him online?
Hello.
Oh, Lord, that's kind of
Yes.
scary. That was actually kind of creepy. It's like somebody snuck up on me right there.
Boo.
Birdman, you doing all right?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We're good. We're good now. I mean, we're good now that Boomer found the right cord to unplug and replace. But all good. All right, hey, we got to start this thing off right, Boomer. So that means there's a sound effect for Boomer and the Birdman. Ready? Hit it. All right. Here's the deal. Questions go out to y'all. Y'all tell me what you think. Sometimes I know you're speaking from your generational perspective. Sometimes it's your own personal opinion. But give me your thoughts on things. And then today we're going to throw a curve in there. Going to let y'all ask me questions. And I'm just like bracing myself for what may or may not happen. All right. First question. You ready? How do you balance party, policy, and personality when you're selecting who to vote for? And if you were listening to my monologue, you got some thoughts. But anyway, how do you personally balance party, policy, and personality when you're selecting who to vote for? And I'll start with you, Birdman. What do you think?
Yeah, I've never really thought about things in this sort of sense. I never really broke it down like this, but it made me start thinking more about temperament. And I specifically say that because there's a lot of people, especially on the right, who are, still all in for Trump, but they realize that, he's kind of got the temperament of, well, I like his policies, but he ticked everybody off on social media. And then you've got your DeSantis type who is, riding that same kind of line, but is very diplomatic, stands up straight, is very professional. I think balancing the policy and the personality is far more important to me personally than the party itself. I'm more interested in the success of our nation and adhering to traditional values than saying, hey, I'm this, and then they just use that as an excuse rather than actually proving it. So the policy and personality part is really what I've been taking into account. Okay.
All right, so you're less inclined to say, I want to make sure they're in the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, which I know for you is the Republican Party, but you're less inclined to worry about their party affiliation as long as their policy and the personality are things you can line up with.
Absolutely. For me, yeah, absolutely, because the political spectrum has changed so much throughout so many years. What used to be Democrats is now Republicans, yada, yada. I want to focus on what's true and right.
All right. There's yours. What you got there, Boomer?
I actually completely agree with that. I look at it as the policy now. More so, what are their beliefs? What are they going to do for our country? What are their stances? And then, honestly, I look at that personality part. I'm a big personality guy. So, how are they going to interact with people? I mean, I want them to be able to talk to me like I'm a human being, not just talk from a teleprompter. And then the party. But on all that, can I go into something else?
Yeah, man.
I mean, some young people are going to have a harder time, younger generation, maybe just the ones that are about to start voting, are going to have a little bit harder of a time because they're so used to social media these days and things of that nature. They're going to look more at possibly look more at the personality of the person and maybe even just the party because that's what social media says.
Yeah. So okay, I agree. I agree with that. I think that's going to be like the mean tweets are going to mean something.
Correct.
The Trump mean tweets are going to mean something, perhaps to the social media generation, which every generation right now does social media. But you're right; they more heavily influenced generation is probably the younger generation on that. All right. So you said policy was number one for you. Was there a number one for you, Birdman?
It's policy. Absolutely.
It wasn't for me when I was growing up. I will say that. I mean, it was probably
Yeah.
when I was growing up. It was probably I got sucked into party
Yeah.
personality policy.
Well, I get all of it, but I get least personality, and I don't mean like it's not a part of it. Like it's very easy for me to look at an appealing candidate. Like I'll be quite honest, in the most recent U.S. Senate primary, I said multiple times that if I had one candidate who had Mike Durant's resume, Mo Brooks's voting record for policy, but had Katie Britt's personality all wrapped into one candidate, I'd have been a very happy person. But as a longtime member of the Republican Party, I'm a firm believer in having a team, having a brand. But I know that the reality is policy means more to me. If the Republican Party's platform was the Democrat stances, and the Democrats had what the Republicans consider in their platform, I'd probably be a Democrat because the policies mean something. All right, good job. All right, so let me jump over to the next question. Next question. All right. Well, I guess I just kind of almost like led into that last question. What a segue, Phil. If you could design a resume, like if there's somebody running for president, and you could design a resume of someone you wish would run for president, what would that resume include? So, Boomer, you get to go first this time, and I see the faraway, starry-eyed look in your eye.
Yeah.
You're looking for everything from wrapping Ted Nugent with Ronald Reagan and a Congressional Medal of Honor winner all at one time.
That's kind of what I was going for. I mean, for me, that candidate, I mean, it's kind of like what we were just a little bit talking about, the policy. What are you going to... what are you going to be all about? But then I was thinking, oh man, someone like crazy like Ted Nugent. What? But I mean, for me, is that all the policy stuff, your stance. What do you? I mean, like exactly what I just said. Stance. What are you? I don't want just empty promises.
No, I get it. So all right. So let's say you look at the resume, and they have a resume. What do you want to see on it?
Oh man, can I defer to Birdman first?
Birdman, you go first. What you got?
Okay, so I'll just jump in and say I'm a big fan of DeSantis, but if I was building build a politician or build a bear, whatever we're going with here,
Build a bear.
I honestly, if I could get DeSantis with a stronger 2A stance and Casey Wardynski's military background, that's what I would choose.
Well, by the way, DeSantis has a military background. He was a naval. I think he was a Naval Academy graduate and a Navy JAG officer.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified. When I say that, I mean Casey's specific background, especially when he got into like the Pentagon and the people he worked with. I should have specified, but yeah, his background in specific. Okay,
all right, cool enough. Boomer, I'm looking back over at you. Are you ready to add to the resume?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I haven't thought of that. So,
okay.
I mean, really, I haven't really thought of it. I'm just looking at who's going to be up right now in my head is like Birdman just said, DeSantis. I love DeSantis and what he stands for and how he says it, he does it. And then, honestly, I love Trump too and all of his policies that he was enacting.
I think one of the things that made Trump so good is that he had been a leader. By the way, he's built businesses over. He knows what the risk of the dollar is. He knows what it means to sign the paychecks. He knows what it means to have to put your name on the line, take out the loan. And at some point, it got to the point that he was so big that he could borrow from himself. You know what I'm saying? But he knows what it means to start off and to risk the venture. And we don't have any of that in the Biden administration.
Right.
I mean, I don't know of anyone who has come into the Biden administration with that level of business experience. So for me, I would want to see somebody who had, major business experience, who's been out there in the private sector, who's not just lived off of the government paycheck for all their career. I want to add to that someone who is, this is me personally, but I would love to see someone who has served ably in the military. you know, you know, would I love to see, a special ops guy or an airborne ranger, that guy? Sure, that's my background. But you know what? I'm less. I don't have to have that as long as I've seen them be willing to serve. And then on top of that, I would love to know what their stance is on their faith. Phil Williams talking. I'm wanting a longtime successful businessman who loves the Lord, who has served his country. And oh, by the way, has sacrificed along the way, and has a family life that I can respect. I mean, I look at all those things, and I'm thinking that I want to see that. I want that in a candidate.
Absolutely. I mean, I see that as well. I mean, for someone to publicly proclaim that, I mean, their faith, that would be huge.
It is, and I don't want to just say I'm the Christian conservative. I want to see the fruit of their faith, if you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Boomer, good time. Let's go ahead and take it to a break right now. We got more of Boomer and the Birdman coming up next. Oh, Lord, we're going to shift gears. I'm going to let them just ask me questions. We'll see how this goes. I don't know where it's going to go. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. And we're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Hey, so we're in one of my favorite segments every single week. We go through a series of questions here with Boomer and the Birdman. And so we're in round 2 of Boomer and the Birdman, but we're going to flip the script. Just thought that today I would take a different tack on one piece of it and let them ask me questions. So, yeah, I am opening myself up for whatever may come, and I think it's Birdman's turn to go first this time. All right, man, what have you got for me?
All right, so I'm not going to go as weird as you were probably expecting. And
Well,
I
I reserve the right not to go weird. How about that?
Well, I thought about going to the political aspect or the really intense political questions, but I actually have something simpler for you.
All right.
So you've been married for quite a while now.
I have.
And that's that's fantastic. So here's my question. If you had to point at one thing to say unequivocally, this is what made my marriage succeed, it's what keeps my marriage succeeding, what would that be?
Earplugs so she can't hear me snoring at night. No, wow, what a question. So, all right. We've been married just short of 36 years. I would have to say, first of all, it was a Jesus decision. It was a decision based upon our faith that we're in this together for the long haul, and that nothing and nobody should get between, and that Jesus first, and if we're keeping God first, then the rest of it comes in a much better fashion. That's my off the cuff answer. I really do believe that, and I would say that Jesus first is probably what's been the defining factor in a beautiful near 36-year marriage. There's several other elements too. I mean, not the least of which she's an extremely patient woman, and then I also, here's the other thing. I say this with all candor, and I pray this way. I know that I am perfectly capable of screwing up my marriage. I know that. That's why I pray constantly that God would guard my heart and not allow me to screw up my marriage. So it's like admitting up front that I have every capability of being a total hack on my marriage, and I don't want to be. And and just honoring her as the number one person in the world. Even my kids know that. They hear it from me. She's the number one person in the world. Man, you get me all melodramatic now, Birdman.
I like it.
Okay. Good enough. All right. Well, pray tell, what do you have, Boomer?
All right, so I'm coming at you at 2 different directions.
Yeah.
Leah Thomas.
Who, what?
The Leah Thomas, the swimmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. I was thinking of the 80s like Breakfast Club superstar Leah Thompson.
Oh,
okay,
no.
Okay, got
All
it.
right, so just what happened with this lady just now, the 80-year-old lady?
80-year-old, yeah.
All right, coming at you on the dad front.
Dad.
Yeah, the dad front. If that would have been your daughter in the YMCA locker room, obviously you'd be proud of her for standing up and saying something. But on the lawyer side and on the dad side, how would you help her go about this and
you forgot the Army Ranger side.
And the Army Ranger side. I mean, how
lock and load of magazines in my trusty M16.
Right. I mean, how would you go about that on the law side? Like, how can you go and attack this?
Well, first of all, I would look at it, trying to break that down pragmatically, like you said, legally speaking, I believe this 80-year-old woman was probably paying for a membership.
Mm-hmm.
And did she not have any rights as a member? Is there not a membership guide? Is there not something she signed up for that gives her the right to make a complaint? And apparently they treated her with such disdain and threw her out because she dared to question why someone with male parts is allowed to walk around and gaze at women in the locker room. I mean, so first of all, here's the other piece. People don't realize this. Under Alabama law, you actually have a right to security and privacy. So it's not just that the other side is allowed to infringe upon your security. You have a right to your own sense of security. And then, of course, I'd have to look at state laws. They were in Washington State, so see where they were. Mm-hmm. There's the legal side of it. As a practical standpoint, I think I'd be calling that manager and asking for a face-to-face. And if he wants to have his corporate counsel with him, fine. But he's going to hear from me. And then he's also going to hear how we're pulling our kids out. And I'm pretty sure that all of our friends who swim there are pulling their kids out. And the other pool down the street he competes with, yeah, that's where we're going. What do you think of that?
Yes.
Dadgummit.
That's awesome. That's what I want to hear.
All right. Well, tell you what, this is all right. There you go. You guys got to ask me questions. So last thing of every single time we do this, stupidest story of the week. And Boomer, I think you're first. You got your stupidest story ready?
I do.
You guys always find stuff that I have not seen. As much resourcing as I do, you guys always come in and crack me up. What'd you find? Stupidest story of the week.
Drunk woman arrested after driving a golf cart on busy highway. I think it was highway. It's in Florida.
I'd say she was highway, bud. That's what I'm saying.
So what happened? What happened? There was an 18-wheeler that basically moved her over to the side of the road. He witnessed her. Well, he said he witnessed her falling asleep at the wheel on a golf cart in the middle of the
on a Florida highway.
Yep, on the Florida highway.
Was she trying to find her way home or trying to find her way to the ninth hole? What was happening?
She had an open bottle of Jack Daniels, it says.
Just on her golf cart,
Yep.
An open bottle of Jack, and she's driving down the highway, and an 18-wheeler nudged her off the road?
Yep, Interstate 95, and she was 58 years old.
I am pretty sure that the driver of the 18-wheeler was incurring some form of liability by nudging a golf cart off the road, regardless of her capacities. Oh, my gosh. That is ridiculous. All right, last one. We got about a minute. Birdman, what's your stupidest story of the week?
Well, I know you guys are deep into the Hollywood fashion realm, so you probably already know about this. But Balenciaga, which is this ultra-luxury Hollywood brand, has introduced a new handbag. I thought you guys might be interested about it. It's only $1,800, and it's designed to look like a trash bag. And
what?
It's a trash bag. It's just a trash bag.
Here, I can give you a whole box of those. They come in a roll. You peel them off one at a time.
Are they $1,800? And can I get them in blue? Because they've got that.
So that thing about our marriage surviving for many, many years, I'm pretty sure it didn't survive because I said, "Hey, Charlene, why don't you carry a trash bag?" And
it's an expensive trash bag. That's got to stand for something, right?
Yeah, the fashion industry, I look at it and go, that stuff doesn't sell, except to idiots who have more money than they know what to do with. That's who it sells to. All right, Birdman, appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon. We're going to be back in a minute, you guys. That was a good clip, Boomer and the Birdman. And y'all asked me questions, too, which is also kind of a treat. At least for me it was. All right, we're going to be right back. Next on the Triple Dipper, Fit to Fight, U.S. military. We'll talk about it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studio. Local, state, national. Man, we are covering down on all the stuff. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, hey, by the way, breaking news before I move to the next part of the Triple Dipper. Breaking news just came out just about the last 45 minutes that Olivia Newton-John has passed away. How about that? Olivia Newton-John passed away, dead at the age of 73. 73 is not young, but it's not old either, if you know what I'm saying. But Olivia Newton-John, it says, died peacefully at her ranch in Southern California this morning, surrounded by family and friends. According to an Instagram post shared by her family, we ask that everyone please respect their privacy. She's been a symbol of triumphs and hope for over 30 years, they say, sharing her journey with breast cancer. She was known for all kinds of hits like Physical and You're the One That I Want. We started alongside John Travolta in Grease, which, became a huge piece of pop culture. But, that's it. That's sad. There she is, Olivia Newton-John, passed away at the age of 73, survived by her husband, John, her daughter, Chloe, her sister, Sarah, and other members of the family who were all around her at the time she passed away. So the fact that they were surrounding her when she passed away tells me that her health had declined to the point that the family was there and not surprised. So, but nonetheless, there's a music icon, an entertainment icon gone. That's a piece of my generation. Was Grease, Boomer, was Grease big for you? Did you watch that?
Yeah, we watched Grease.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. All the time?
All the time.
All
the time.
I remember,
Yeah.
At least once a week.
At least once a week.
Had to have a Grease snack. All right. Okay. All right. Olivia Newton-John, dead at the age of 73. Breaking news. All right. Let me switch gears. All right. So today so far, and if you want to call in, by the way, I'll take calls. Call in when you feel like it. 833-68-RIGHT. That's our number. 833-687-4448. That is 833-68-RIGHT. Okay, so here's the topics we've covered so far. Adventures in Woke World. I had a plethora, a buffet, a cornucopia, if you will, of woke stories from around the nation. Some were, not so big a deal. They were just like cheesy, vegan sausage at Cracker Barrel of all places. And then others were maddening, like University of Kansas having a class on angry white males. Like, what? There's a no-win situation, by the way. I said earlier, if I were to go to the class and be offended by the class and then raise my hand and say that I was offended by the class, I would be accused of being an angry white male because the class made me angry. What do you do with that? It's ridiculous. Anyway, it's a public university, by the way, waste of public tax dollars. I'd like to know, are they teaching using public dollars, or is there an endowment of some kind? And if so, where did the endowment come from? Anyway, so I had a whole section there on adventures in Woke World. You are welcome to call in, which included, by the way, the story that Boomer brought up again a minute ago about the 80-year-old woman, 80 years old, who would go and swim for exercise at the YMCA only to be shocked when there was a transgender man, woman, whatever they are, in the locker room. And she took offense more for the young 4- and 5-year-olds who were changing their clothes to go swimming for the swim team or something. She was offended for them. And when she confronted them, she was told she could never come back. Oh, boy. Adventures in Woke World. That was number one. Spendorama. We spent some time unpacking that. We had Congressman Mo Brooks call in and talk about it. But the Democrats just rammed through on a totally split 50-50 with the vice president casting the tiebreaker vote, a bill to spend $739 billion, which raises taxes, which throws chunks and chunks of change at green energy initiatives. And, oh, by the way, increases the size of the IRS by upwards of 87,000 IRS agents. What in God's name? So you want to talk about Woke World or Spendorama? Call on in. But right now what I'm doing is switching to number 3 on the Triple Dipper. I got all the way to 3, Boomer. Woohoo! Anyway, number 3, fit to fight. Number 3, fit to fight. Now, I will predicate this by saying I love the U.S. military. Like, I've had to spend inordinate amounts of time away from my family because of the military, but nonetheless, I love the U.S. military. It's generational in my family. My grandfather, my father, myself, other members of my family serving in a variety of capacities, and I had 30 years total of service when you count deployments and active and guard, reserve, all the different pieces of my time on military service. All that to say, I am highly critical of the way things are going right now. Highly critical. But I believe that I've earned the right to be critical. So before anyone takes what I'm about to start going into and believes that in some way I am dissing the U.S. military, no, I am dissing the leadership. I am dissing the leadership right now of not only the U.S. military, but certainly of the Biden administration as commander-in-chief and the subordinates in the Secretary of Defense office that handle our U.S. military right now. And they're handling it badly. Well, General Jack Keane came on Fox News interview with Martha McCallum, and this is about a month old. No, not even that. It's more like 3 weeks old. Talking about military recruitment. But that's what I'm going to talk about fit to fight. There's a variety of things about this, but this clip, which was so good that I thought, you know what, I may have played this once before back when it was fresh, but I went back and got it again because what I'm about to talk about is literally, is our military being led down a road to being combat ineffective? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm deeply concerned about the state of our U.S. military. You get that clip? Boomer, I'll tell you what, clip 1, this is General Jack Keane talking about the state of military recruitment right now. Go ahead and hit it.
Yeah, this is pretty challenging. We've had an all-volunteer force since the end of the Vietnam War in 1975, and we've had our ups and downs before with recruiting, but this one is particularly significant. I mean, there's 2 real issues here. One is the eligibility pool itself, Martha, and that is those who are qualified to meet the requirements of the United States military. That number is down to 23%. When I was on active duty, we were concerned when it was at 35%. So 75% plus of American youth are not qualified to be in its military. Why is that? One, for moral reasons, and that's largely crime. If you committed a crime, we're just not going to take you. The second issue is medical, and this has exploded. We have far too many people who have comorbidity issues at such a young age. Largely obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other issues that disqualify them. In some cases, they can get a waiver, but that also takes time to do. And then the third thing, I refer to it as mental, but it's also academics, in the sense that we have far too many people, Martha, who can't pass the aptitude test to get inside the United States military. That is an indictment, in my judgment, of our secondary high school education system. Because the major reason they can't pass the test is they can't read at the proper level.
Wow. Wow. All right, General Jack Keane laying it out there. First of all, understand what he said is that we are seeing something like we've not seen since the 70s when it comes to recruiting. They are not making mission. I guarantee you, if there's a recruiter out there and you want to, or you have somebody who knows someone in recruiting, I would love to hear someone call in and say, here's what we're dealing with. But yeah, it is way down. Why is it way down? Well, General Keane first addressed the military recruiting pool. All right. There are issues in leadership. I believe this is, but he also pointed out that culturally speaking, not just, but so when you see things happening in a cultural sense, understand that's the pool from which we recruit for the military. And culturally speaking, what we're seeing right now, one is the eligibility pool is way down in part because of what he, sort of labeled as moral issues, meaning that largely crime. I would also suggest that drug use is a big part of it. which is a crime, but in some places it's not. So if you live in a state where marijuana is legalized, guess what? In the military, you still can't piss hot and be able to stay in. So the reality is you're going to wind up seeing kids who can't join because they live in a place that has culturally gotten them adapted to the idea of not being capable, whether they are, have a criminal record, whether they are a drug user, but morally speaking, the pool is smaller. Secondly, he also pointed out medical. Too many kids these days do not have what it takes physically to be able to join the military. They can't pass the physical training tests. They can't, keep up. They can't tote the ruck. They can't lift that thing or drag that person or carry that buddy who may get wounded in combat. They can't put on the body armor and be able to sustain because their backs, their bones are not set up for it. It's unbelievable to me that we are at that point. And it's because we have become a nation that has so many comorbidities. At young ages, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of them are disqualifiers, and all of them are more rampant than they've ever been. And the third thing he labels mental, he as academics, really. But I would also suggest this, and he says this in his second audio clip, which I'm going to play in just a minute. He alludes to something, but he doesn't want to just basically trounce the current leadership. But if you read between the lines, what he's basically saying is there are other issues, and they need to do a study on these. So I'll tell you what, Boomer, take us to a break, man. We'll do the break. We'll come right back. I'm going to play you a second clip of General Jack Keane, and then we're going to start breaking it down. What is happening? Heritage.com, the Heritage Foundation, they label it the woke takeover of the U.S. military. I've got other articles here that talk about, things like the vaccine mandates and what's that doing. What did Trump say he's going to do about the vaccine mandates in the military? We'll talk about that. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Phil Williams sitting here, solid, conservative, and just plain right at 4:23 p.m. So, listen, I'm in number 3 of the Triple Dipper, Fit to Fight. Boomer, you got that second General Keane audio clip. So here's the thing. General Keane, I played an audio clip earlier. It was the first half of a statement. Before he went on too far into recruiting issues, and by the way, later in the clip he began to actually outline numbers, like how far they are below mission right now, recruiting mission. But before he did that, though, he addressed in the first segment, I did it, first part of the segment I did, he addressed the fact that the recruiting pool, if you will, is reduced, and it's a cultural thing. It's cultural that we are seeing fewer candidates for military service. But then there's a place where he was trying to be nuanced. You could tell he was trying to be careful. He's been the chief of staff of the Army. He's a retired 4-star. He knows what it means to be the chief of staff of the Army. He's trying not to beat up the guys that are in there now, but you could hear it. Boomer, I tell you what, let's go ahead. You ready on that? Go ahead and play it.
The major reason they can't pass the test is they can't read at the proper level. And obviously that's very challenging to have somebody like that in the military. Also, we want high school diploma graduates as well. So that number, that pool has gone down. And then inside the pool, this has nothing to do with who wants to come, who doesn't want to come. This is just who's eligible. And then inside the pool, the propensity to enlist. In other words, the desire to enlist is going down inside that pool. And we heard the introduction there from the Vice Chief of Staff in the Army as to one of those reasons is certainly the economy itself. There's very low unemployment. And when that takes place, the military is also challenged. Coming out of COVID, likely another challenge here. And I think the Army's got to just do a comprehensive study. They're going to do that. They don't need me to tell them to do that, to kind of figure out some other factors that certainly may be involved and what they can do to incentivize young people to join. This is going to be a full court press on their point. Here's the numbers, give you a sense of it, Martha.
All right, good enough. He was about to go in the numbers, and it was some of the same numbers I've been telling you about how far they are below recruiting mission. But did you hear what he said? That once you get past the fact that we have fewer people eligible, once you get into those who are still eligible, even still, the desire to enlist has gone down. If the desire to enlist has gone down, he said part of that's going to be because there's other jobs available. Unemployment is not as high as it's been. COVID has been an issue. But those two things aside, there's less of a desire, and you can hear it. He said at one point, there also needs to be, he said, a comprehensive study on other factors. I hear that, and I what I know is being said is his veiled way of saying, fellas, make it something they want to do again. Get it back to where it was. I'm just telling you, we are looking at a crisis in recruiting, but Heritage.com calls it the woke takeover of the U.S. military. So it's the other factors that I want to talk about right now. What are they doing to the military that they can control? Why is the desire to enlist so far down within those who could enlist if they wanted to? What comprehensive study on other factors? Well, I would suggest that there are things that are being done to the Biden administration right now, by the Biden administration right now, that literally are designed almost to weaken our military. Got a caller on line 1? Yeah, let me grab it's Sparky. Hey, Sparky, how you doing, man?
I'm good, and it is very concerning. I myself did 26 years active and have worked with and for the Army in a lot of ways ever since. And it is true, when recruiting and assessing, there's never going to be an easy fix once you've got a bubble or a problem, right? Because it takes many years to work your way back out of it. And then inside the military, when you lose all focus on war fighting, and soldiers accomplishing a mission, and you spend more time on kinder, gentler classes on cultural sensitivity, celebration of transgender wonderfulness, and then your entire promotion system finds itself based in identity, racial, and gender politics, as opposed to rewarding true warfighters for achievement. that's a recipe for disaster. And
Yeah.
I think it's precisely what the far left socialists want. They want a weak military because they've resented what they can view as a conservative, mighty military might, and of course, as Barack Obama called it, crusaderism around the world. It bothers me. It worries me a lot, and there will not be a quick fix with the next president. Trust me, it's going to take years to dig out of this hole.
Yeah, it really is. When'd you hang up the uniform, Sparky?
I retired out of Fortress Leavenworth in 2003 and came immediately here, and I've been working at Redstone ever since.
Okay. So, all right, then you didn't have to see some of what we saw on the officer evaluation reports. When I would do OERs and I had to rate junior officers, I had to spend time talking about whether they did or did not align with the commander's sexual harassment and equal employment opportunity policies. I mean, it was.
Right.
I would literally have to do away with other more valuable content to make sure that I had the mandatory language that they complied with Sharp and EO. It was ridiculous.
It's tragic, man.
Hey, Sparky, appreciate you, man. Thanks for your service. Thank you very much. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Call in, 833-68-RIGHT. That's 833-687-4448. We'll be right back. And we're back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama. Man, we are coming down from around Clanton all the way to the Tennessee line, from Tuscaloosa over yonder to Gadsden. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're blanketing the northern half of this state. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Okay, so we are in Fit to Fight. Before we do that, I've got to tell you real quickly about Just Love Coffee Cafe. I love just breaking in and doing this because – I mean, they've been with us for so long now, and it's so easy to brag on their stuff. So if you've not been to Just Love Coffee Cafe, let me just suggest to you it is worth the time. Maybe it's a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Maybe it's an afternoon break. Maybe it's driving in the morning. You're tired of the usual biscuit at the drive-thru, so you stop in there. Do they have food? Oh, yes, they have food. Oh, yeah, they got good food. They got stuff that would just blow your socks off. Yeah, they've got like they call it the womlet. It's an amazing omelet cooked in a waffle iron. They've got waffles. They've got things you can grab to go. By the way, they got the breakfast burrito and other things. But on top of that, they've got amazing award-winning coffees. They got the kind that Charlene calls the treat coffees, like the cappuccinos, the lattes, the espressos. Then they got the award-winning dry roast, grind the beans fresh cup of black coffee, light roast, medium roast, dark roast. Oh, it's the elixir of life. Okay, so anyway, Just Love Coffee Cafe. 2 locations in our listening area. One on Hughes Road in Madison out towards City Hall. The other on South Memorial Parkway. Stay tuned. I am hearing a 3rd location is in the works. So just be aware. But Just Love Coffee Cafe. 2 locations for now. Hughes Road in Madison and South Memorial Parkway in Huntsville. All right, I am in number 3 of the Triple Dipper. Fit to Fight. The military. Is it fit to fight? What are they doing to our military? Every once in a while, I got to revisit this. Sometimes it's because there's an old article that refreshed, and sometimes it's because, there's new stuff out there. So when you take into account vaccine mandates, when you take into account cultural issues that liberals are creating, when you take into account the wokeness in the military, all of it creating a recruiting nightmare that you have to also then wonder, what are they also doing to readiness? Their readiness is being reduced by the inability to recruit. Readiness is being reduced by the number of people that they're forcing out of uniformed service due to vaccine mandates. Readiness is being reduced by the amount of time that our combat forces are having to take away from active training on military skills and warfighting to do things like, systemic racism and EO and sexual harassment, and it's on and on and on. It's like the military's become a petri dish for experimentation. Well, that's where we are. So, story that came out last year, May of last year. This is what reminded me of this. I actually saw Mark Levin reference this story, and I had to go find it. The woke takeover of the U.S. military endangers us all. A story from Heritage.com, which is the Heritage Foundation. Dakota Wood, Mike Gonzalez. Dakota Wood, by the way, had about a 28 or 26-year career in the Marine Corps. And they point out, remember this? Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, who was fired from Space Force because he was concerned about the level of ideological training that his troops were having to go through. And it says in here, the woke left views the military as a crucial ideological battlefield. And much of the brass and civilian leadership at the Pentagon are prepared to fight on behalf of the woke cause. They talk about imposing anti-American racial ideologies on troops, which directly threatens our national security because it spreads ideas that undermine confidence in the actual principles that are the underpinnings of our Constitution. He goes on to point out, when you instruct them that our Constitution and the beliefs incorporated into it by the founders were meant to perpetuate white supremacy, then you have to wonder, why would they want to take an oath to defend the U.S. Constitution? You see, this is the stuff that I believe that General Keane was referring to when he said other issues or other matters that need to be examined. And he goes on to talk about the fact that our current administration seems to have an apparent intent, they say, to introduce wrong-headed and highly inflammatory, even Marxist ideologies into the military ranks. The Navy's professional reading program last year was found to include books that portrayed America as systemically racist, promoting the view that the Constitution was written to perpetuate white supremacy. The Defense Department at one point, I need to track this down, but the Defense Department at one point was reportedly considering hiring a private company to monitor the free speech of military personnel on social media. I'm just saying, why would you want to enlist in an organization that is not going to let you be what they say they are? Instead, they're going to try to mold you to be what they, on the liberal side, want you to be. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's break it down into categories. There's the woke piece that I believe is key. Why do you want to sign up to protect and defend the Constitution if they're going to teach you that the Constitution is all about systemic racism? But then you got to think about the vaccine mandate. And I guarantee that we are seeing a recruiting issue on the vaccine mandates. Remember, we beat the vaccine mandates in most areas of society. The one place we've not been able to entirely beat it is in the military. Now, Navy and I think Air Force personnel have had some pretty serious lawsuits that have put all that on hold. It's been temporarily enjoined pending the outcome of the merits of the case. But what's Trump saying about the vaccine mandates? So the Epoch Times, dated today, this is interesting. Former President Donald Trump said on August 7th, that's yesterday, that if he returns to the White House in 2025, he'll rehire service members who lost their jobs by refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. He said, I think it's a disgrace what happened to them. He said, I'd let them back, and I'd give them back pay. So I would give them their back pay, I'd let them back, and they understand that. They know it. Back pay, if you're not familiar, is just a common remedy for wage violations. I mean, the bottom line is, if you were unjustly treated at work and you're allowed to take your position back, you get your seniority and your back pay and benefits in spades. And that's what Trump says he would do. He's laying that one out there for everybody to ruminate on a little bit. All right. But then you got a great article. Which one is it? Here it is. Yeah, Wall Street Journal. James Eifert wrote a piece this past Thursday. And I had to remind myself who James Eifert was. Oh, that's right. He was the Adjutant General of the Florida National Guard until most recently. And he wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal. The vaccine mandate puts national security at risk. Are we fit to fight? Well, they want to say you're only fit to fight if you got the shot. But what are they doing to the force with the 60,000 Guard and reservists who did not get the shot? And General Eifert says, I've never been more worried about the future of the U.S. Armed Forces than I am right now. He said, I say that as a concerned citizen who has served for more than 40 years, the last 3 of which has been as the Adjutant General of Florida National Guard. One of the military's most foundational duties is to recruit and retain men and women willing to defend their country. Unfortunately, current federal policy is rendering that goal unattainable. He goes on to point out that 40,000 National Guard members, 20,000 Army reservists nationwide are at risk of involuntary termination. He says, while the Pentagon suggests that military readiness is at risk with anything less than maximum vaccination, it's vital that we consider the real consequences of enforcing this mandate. He says, my Florida National Guard formations face the potential loss of 1,000 unvaccinated guardsmen out of a 12,000 total force. That leaves us shorthanded as our state enters hurricane season, while more than 1,000 soldiers and airmen are also deployed on federal missions. So yeah, let's stop and think about this. And oh, by the way, I've said it before multiple times, it also depends on the unit. So let's say, for instance, in the Alabama National Guard, we have a National Guard Special Forces, Green Berets. We have a National Guard Special Forces group headquarters and a line battalion of Green Berets and a support battalion of riggers and support personnel here in Alabama's National Guard. All right, we're going to lose potentially upwards of 18% of Alabama's National Guard. What if a lot of that was in the line battalion of a Green Beret unit? Can you imagine what that does to readiness for that unit? So you may say, well, you know, it's only 18% of the total force. Where? Because units can become combat ineffective when they reach a certain degradation of their manning levels. vaccine mandates. Are we fit to fight? Well, they want you to have the shot. Otherwise, you're not fit to fight. But apparently the vice president can be around the president who has COVID and still go on our schedule and everything's fine. And apparently the president, the commander-in-chief who issued this order, he can, oh, by the way, be vaccinated and quadruple boosted and still get it and then re-get it. And, oh, by the way, sit there on camera going, I'm fine. Everything's going to be good. But it's a good thing I was vaccinated and boosted. Well, what we're hearing here, folks, is that if the current variants are not knocking down a man who's, old as Methuselah, then what are the odds it's going to hurt the 19-year-old E4, squad leader in a line infantry unit? Not likely. Not likely. What else we got here in this? I'll tell you what. Let me do this. Great place for a break. Boomer, take us to the break. We'll go to the break. We'll come right back. We'll wrap this thing up. If you want to call. Adventures in Woke World. Spindorama. Fit to Fight. Anything else we've talked about? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, covering all of North Alabama, solid, conservative, and just plain right. I got a caller online. Oh, I do. Yeah, it's Jeff from Indiana. Jeff, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Phil.
Good. What's up?
Hey, to do with all this wokeism, they're trying to weed everybody out of the military. I think what they're trying to do is to weed all the conservatives out of the military, so that if one of these days that we have to rise up against tyranny, they'll come out against us. They will stick the United States forces against the American people. And with the mindset that the liberals have, I believe they'd probably shoot us.
Wow. Well, you know what? You'd love to believe that would not be the case. I mean, you got the issues, legally speaking, of posse comitatus. You're not supposed to use U.S. troops on U.S. soil. But even still, I do agree with you, though, at the very least, on the fact that I think they are trying to create a woke military. They're trying to soften the image. They're trying to create, something that conservatives don't want to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you take all the leadership and everything and get rid of all the conservative leaders all the way down through the ranks, there's not going to be that one person that stands up and says, no, this is an unlawful order, I will not follow it.
Yeah, and I remember distinctly one time hearing a guy say, and it stuck with me forever. He said that when an order is given by a superior officer, unless it is illegal, immoral, or unethical, it should be followed. But being popular is not one of the criteria. And right now, what we're seeing is wokeness is a popular issue, and they're trying to get all these things done.
Yeah, it just, like I say, this whole everything's going downhill, and good men will have to step in and stop it. Hopefully before it gets too late.
Well, I'm hoping the good folks show up come the midterms, and we see this thing a complete sea shift, and that Washington gets taken back, and we can put some of this to a stop. But all right, Jeff. By the way, Jeff, are you the one who called in and said you're on the monkeypox task force?
Yeah, Private Jeff reporting for duty, Colonel Williams, Task Force Monkeypox, Prairie Dogging Division.
Oh, all right, brother. Have a good day on the road. Oh my
You
gosh.
too, buddy.
Oh my gosh. We didn't do the logo, Boomer. We forgot to do the logo for the monkeypox task force. I mean, it's got to be done. So just it's gonna have to happen.
We'll have to post it everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we got to have a patch for all of it. All right, listen, Hey, you had another call too. Somebody left a message. What was that? Oh, I know what it was. Oh, you posted on the board there?
Yeah.
Oh, are the 87,000? Okay, question by a caller. You go ahead, man.
Yeah, question by the caller. Are the 87,000 IRS agents that are going to be hired, are they going to have to be vaccinated?
Oh,
what a good question.
Good question. You know what? I think the answer is supposed to be yes, because federal employees, I believe, are subject. You know what? I could be wrong. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if the Federal Employees Union got that. You know what's going to happen, though? Here's what's going to happen. They're going to pass this thing. I hope they don't. But if they pass this thing, we're going to be stuck with it. And then even if we get the Republicans in, unless they repeal it, the hiring go forward. However, the Republicans will change things so the vaccine mandate goes away. And so then we're hiring without a mandate. That's what I bet's going to happen. Wow, because we're only like 85 days away from the midterm elections. It's here.
That's so close.
It is here. Praise God. It is here. All right, listen. Marco Rubio came out the other day, August 4th, last Thursday. Story on Fox News. Rubio calls out the military's woke recruiting videos amid China tensions and says it's dangerous. So Rubio, and I saw the video, very well done. Rubio ran old recruiting videos and then lined them up against new recruiting videos. It was sad. I mean, his conclusion was, we're not preparing for the threats that we face. He talks about basically the first part of the video clip showed patriotic imagery and impressive firepower and paratroopers jumping out of planes and soldiers, conducting their individual movement techniques and weapons drills and all that. The second part is current advertising for recruitment, showing things like the proper use of gender pronouns. And, I was born with 2 mommies, and one day I joined the Army. And it just, anyway, here's his words. This is Marco Rubio. Recruitment numbers are down because a lot of the working class families who are the backbone of our recruitment efforts, these are the people that have for decades sent their sons and daughters to defend our country. And they're not interested in joining some woke social experiment organization. So it's very sad. He said, I hope it's a wake-up call that we begin to reallocate resources and attention to the right things and to our military capabilities in the Pacific. I agree. And by the way, so does our own Senator Tommy Tuberville. Tuberville, AL Daily News, dated 3 weeks ago. Military recruitment, a national security emergency. So on a phone call with press, Tuberville said the United States was lacking military recruitment numbers and constituted that, as in his words, a national security emergency. And he went on to cite the things we talked about earlier with the recruiting issues in the numbers of the National Guardsmen that are not going to be, retained, allegedly, because of the vaccine mandates. And the official Army website, he pointed out, says that we've not faced this level of military recruiting deficit since 1973, right after they ended the draft. And he pointed out that many of the recruits are ineligible due to their own refusal to get COVID-19 vaccines. And then he pointed out that one of the things that was very galling was that in February of last year, Secretary of Defense Austin ordered the entire Department of Defense to stand down for an entire day for education and training on extremism. What an insult to the ranks. Everybody stop what you're doing. That's mass punishment. Everybody stop what you're doing. Stand down. Stop all training. I don't care what you got going on. You're going to take lessons on extremism. As if we were pervasively filled with extremists in the ranks. Y'all, I had 30 years of service. Did not see it. And I guarantee you the vast majority of veterans would say, never saw it. And if they did, it was a one-off situation. Well, listen, Tuberville joined other Republican senators calling out the Biden administration for trying to build a woke army. Diversity, equity, and inclusion training being added to military curriculum. It's just not good. All right, folks, I love our U.S. military. Thank you all for your service. Those who are still serving now, we love you, we appreciate you. And we wish this would change soon. Because I'm telling you, the best way to maintain the peace is to have a firm and adequate strength. And that comes from having a military that knows how to fight. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming up next, you got the great one, Mark Levin. Boomer and I back here tomorrow at 2. You guys have an amazing night. We'll see you tomorrow.